As you can see, it's an Empire style center table, but the condition of the table doesn't exactly look imperial. The mahogany veneer looks tired, the bronzes look dark and dull, and the marble top is missing.
This table doesn't look imperial yet, but I think I can make it look much better. Hi, my name is Arie. I've been restoring antique furniture for over 25 years. A friend of mine who saw my videos gave me this Empire style table frame to restore because he had no longer any use for it. Here are some examples of what Empire style center tables are supposed to look like.
They are all made of high gloss French polished mahogany with a warm colored finish and with shiny gilt bronzes and marble tops. I scoured the internet and on Marketplace you can find anything. And I decided on a stunning green marble top that was for sale close by and for a good price, that fits the table perfectly.
Now we have all our elements in place. Let's start restoring.
I start by taking off the star appliques of the table frame. Then I'm going to take off the old finish with paint stripper, and to protect myself I wear gloves. I apply the paint stripper with a brush and wait for it to take effect. Then I use coarse steel wool to take off the old finish. You can already see the mahogany veneer underneath is in good condition. The bronzes are also covered with the same finish as the wood, so I also use paint stripper to clean them. And I also use steel wool to take off the finish. Now that the old finish on the wood and bronzes have been taken off, I start by cleaning and polishing the bronzes to a golden shine. But first, I protect the wood by applying paper tape around the bronzes. I use an old soft rag to apply copper polish solution. I let that sit for a moment and then use a fine wired copper brush to clean and polish the bronzes. It's very satisfying to see them go from dull brown to shiny gold. With the bronze basement and capitals of the columns done, only the stars are left to clean. That part done, let me tell you something about the empire style. At the end of the 18th century, the absolute monarchy of the House of Bourbon ruled France and had been for centuries. And what had seemed so certain for centuries changed overnight. In 1789, the French Revolution changed everything. It saw the end of society as people knew it, with nobility and the church toppled from their pedestal. After the French Revolution and the tumultuous times that followed, one man rose to power, Napoleon Bonaparte. Between 1800 and 1815, he established a new imperial style called empire, or empire. He took inspiration from the grandeur of the Roman Empire and used art and architecture for his propaganda. The Empire style is very symmetrical, severe and monumental. Decoration is abundant but very organized, with motifs of power and conquering like laurel leaves, eagles and sphinxes. For furniture, it's mahogany, gilt metal decoration and marble. Our little table has all of the above. Although the Empire period lasted only 15 to 20 years, over time, the Empire style became synonymous with severity and power and went through several revivals. Our little center table dates from a later period. Judging from the construction, I think the middle of the 20th century. Also, this is straight grain mahogany and not quite the quality of blossom mahogany. Historically, mahogany was often dyed a reddish or purplish brown. I usually like mahogany a faded orangey brown, but with the veneer on this table, I think I prefer a warmer and more outspoken color. So I'm dyeing this rather plain looking mahogany. I'm filling a container with alcohol and I'm adding powdered pigments soluble in alcohol. First a dark brown oak, then I add a little mahogany purple. I mix well and run a test on a piece of mahogany veneered multiplex I had lying around in the workshop. I don't like it too red, so I'm very happy with this reddish but still brown color. Dyeing wood is always exciting, so here we go. I bring on the dye with a medium brush and always follow the grain of the wood. The mahogany veneer takes the dye very well, and I know I'm on the right track. After the dye has dried, I brush on a thin coat of an acrylic varnish. This water-based varnish will act as a buffer between the alcohol-soluble dye and the alcohol-based French polish I'm going to add later, and will keep the dye from bleeding into the French polish and become patchy. With the acrylic varnish applied, you can already see the saturated color of the mahogany. Now it's time for the filled-in areas. Their color is off and need retouching. I'm taking some alcohol-based shellac and add the dark brown oak and mahogany red powder dye. With that, I cover the wood filler. Then, as a base for French polishing, I brush on a coat of shellac. Now it has some gloss added, you can judge the color even better, and now I'm even more excited to bring depth and light into the wood by French polishing the dyed mahogany veneer. To protect the cleaned bronze parts while French polishing the table, I cover them with paper tape. Now that the bronze parts are protected by paper tape, we can start French polishing. But first, let's see what Bella is up to. She's already waiting for some attention and a walk outside. She definitely knows where she wants to go to. As long as the ball is on the grass, everything went fine. But then she took the ball into the water and her piggy nature came to the surface. Mud everywhere, on the snout, the paws, the car seat. I'm not happy and she knows. She must be self-cleaning because funny enough, after sleeping it off, she looks clean as a whistle again. Time to start French polishing our table. First, I put on gloves to protect my hands. Then I pour shellac on the cotton filling of my polishing pad and add alcohol. I fold in the filling in the outside cotton cloth and shape it to fit my hand. Then I start making my polishing turns. Every turn the alcohol takes a little bit of the shellac resin to the surface and deposits it on the wood. After a turn, when the pad crosses the same spot, the alcohol has evaporated and shellac has dried enough to take another coat of shellac and blend it in with the previous turn. So, French polishing is basically applying many ultra-thin layers of shellac that blend together to fill the wood pores and level the surface to one high gloss finish that feels like it lets you look right inside the grain of the wood. In between several layers of French polish, I sand with superfine grit sandpaper to level out the surface of the polish. After I wipe away the dust, I start another set of ultra-thin layers of French polish. I finish with spiriting off the French polish, a round of polishing the surface with mostly alcohol in my polishing pad to remove traces of oil and level and brighten the French polish to a high gloss. With the French polish finished and sufficiently dried, I take off the protective paper tape. Before brushing on a coat of nitrocellulose varnish, I protect myself with a mask. When the clean and shiny bronzes stay uncovered, they will tarnish over time, and to prevent that, I brush on a coat of nitrocellulose varnish. Nitrocellulose will hold its high gloss and transparency over time and does not yellow. I reattach the stars and focus on the last part of this restoration, the marble top. On closer inspection, there are some scratches in the marble that I'd like to polish out. For that, I have my diamond sanding pads in several grids. I wet the surface of the marble and attach a coarse grit sanding pad to my drill machine. Then I make my turns sanding the surface of the marble. After several turns, I switch to a finer grit sanding pad. I switch to still finer a few times more till I'm satisfied. I clean off the surface and brush on a coat of uncolored wax. After drying overnight, I buff up the wax to a high gloss. Unfortunately, I'm unhappy with the result and take off most of the gloss by polishing the surface with fine steel wool. In my opinion, it looks better a little less shiny, especially because the table itself is high gloss enough. Then it's finally time to put all the pieces together for the end result. Do you remember what the Empire-style center table looked like before restoration? This is what it looks like after restoration.